Today I'm connecting with someone incredibly special. A dear friend, my longtime coach, and a genuine force for transformation, Yvette Aquila. She's a visioning coach and psychotherapist whose work has changed countless lives, including mine. Yvette is one of those amazing people who can just stop you in your tracks and challenge your preconceived ideas or limiting beliefs. She's definitely not afraid to stretch you to some uncomfortable places, which is done to me time after time, which I'm very grateful for. She has that beautiful gift that enables you to slow down, become still, and really design the life you want to live. I don't recommend Yvette to everyone. And that's not because I don't believe she knows what she's doing. It's because she's so amazing at what she does. It's important to me that I direct people who are truly ready to work with her. And that's why I'm so excited to share this episode. Because if you're listening or watching, you'll get a chance to experience Yvette's unique philosophy and style for yourself. In this episode, we dive deep into the art of visioning. And it's not just a buzzword or wishful thinking. It's a grounded, powerful practice for bringing your deepest hopes and intuitive desires to life. Yvette helps us understand how visioning is different from simply setting goals, what it truly means to live from a place of alignment, and why slowing down is often the very first step to unlocking real, meaningful change. Yvette also shares her personal journey from experiencing burnout in corporate Australia to making a complete career pivot. Her transformation emerged from a place of stillness, deep soul searching, and ultimately trusting what she truly wanted to come through her. Whether you're building a business, nurturing your creative spirit, or keen to create a life you love, this one's for you. Hi, Yvette.
Hey, Tom. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Today on the podcast, we're going to talk about a specific theme, I guess. It's what you do every day, and it's a awesome process and thing that changes people's lives for the better. And that is visioning in action. So I guess, first of all, we need a bit of a definition into what is visioning itself. It can mean a lot of different things to a lot of people. Some people, it might bring up things like a bit woo-woo, what is this, manifesting, all these different terms, goal setting. But what's your definition of visioning?
It's a good question. And you're right, it means different things to different people. So there is no one definition through my lens. Oh, pardon the pun.
Pun intended.
Okay, so visioning is whether it doesn't need to be something that you can actually see, because not everybody actually has the capacity to visualize something in their mind's eye. So it can be a feeling, it can be an inner knowing, an intuition. It is something that is there, that has life in it, that wants to be brought to life in the here and now or at some point in your lifetime. It's an expression, my words, of consciousness that want to be expressed and experienced for the greater good. That's my term of visioning. It's to bring something to life that benefits, enriches your life and the lives of others that you touch.
Lovely. That's a lovely definition. I love that. We've all got imaginations. Mm-hmm. Some people might say that they're not as creative as others, but at its heart, we all can vision something. We can all can make that picture in our mind. And that's all well and good. We can make vision boards. We can do all those sort of things. But without any action, it's probably not much good to you. So, what is the difference, I guess, with, vision without action and action without any vision? Can you explain that? And I guess, dispel the challenge that, visioning, that's all well and good, but it's not reality. What do you say to people who might have those sort of thoughts?
Well, there's the thought first. If I believe it's not a reality, it's not in my potential, then it's not. And that's okay. We don't want to convince people that everybody has to do the world exactly the same. And one of the things I want to start with, I think you said action without vision. And that's nice. I often do that. I'll go for a Sunday drive and I don't know where I'm going. I'm going to end up anywhere, somewhere. Doesn't mean it's been a waste of time or it's not been enjoyable. It just hasn't taken me to a destination that I envisioned I might arrive at. So there was nothing in it. It was just, let's just go and enjoy life. And wow, what a wonderful thing to do. Go and enjoy life. Then we have visioning, vision boards. So visioning for me is not a vision board. A vision board is some things that I would like to experience that are out there outside of myself, and I go and grab them and I hope that I might bring them to me somehow. But it's still the powers out there. Visioning is something that's enlivened within me. So something that I just know I want to bring to life. And it can be, within the next 3 years, I want to go on a holiday to Italy. And I want to enjoy 3 months just in the wonderful Mediterranean seas and sun. And as I start to feel that, I know I want to do that. I don't know how that's going to be possible. Now we're bringing something to life. And so I just need to connect just a little thing in there. If time doesn't exist, and I know that's another conversation, but if time doesn't exist, that means I've already tapped into a potentiality that's in my life stream, let's call it, and I'm already now acknowledging I want to bring it to life. So visioning acknowledges something within me that yearns something that I want to bring to life, versus seeing something and going, oh, I want that car. Oh, I want that house. Oh, they've got that. I want that too. I want to experience what others are doing, versus, wow, I'm getting a calling to go here. And then the minute I acknowledge I want to do that in 3 years' time and I come back here, I don't need to know how I'll make it happen right now, but I need to put it into my timeline of my life. And it might be, I'm going to bank $40, $50 a week if I can afford it, $100 a month if that's what I can afford, and it's going to be called Italy. And now I'm actually in action. I'm now taking aligned, intentional action to create and bring to life my vision. Does that help?
Absolutely. It starts with a seed somewhere and then you move towards it.
Yeah.
Where did visioning, whether it be consciously or unconsciously, start for you?
It was an unconscious, definitely, and I'm going to align it with hope. So as a child, I experienced what I'm going to call a tumultuous way of being in the world. It was, I felt like most adults were out of control, in suffering, not living their best life because of all the so-called constraints, whether they were real or imagined for them. They were still holding them back. And I remember going, I would have been 5 or 6, that I want to experience life different. And so I asked my grandmother to help me connect with some people overseas to create pen friends. And it started with sharing postcards with people of similar age from age 6. And what I started to do was keep the postcards and put them into a photo album. And what I was doing every time I would look at that photo album is, one day I will visit that place and meet that person. And I did that all the way up until I was 15, 16. Pen friends, different parts of the world, postcards. And I still have, sadly, some of those got burnt in a house fire when I was 11, but I still have those that were able to be saved and those I created post that. And without realising it, I was actually keeping myself committed to my vision of seeing those places, of meeting those people. And when I went overseas at 19, I did meet quite a few of those people, and I went to most of those places.
Wow.
So that was probably for me, as I reflect now, an early way of visioning.
Wow. There's a couple of things there. I mean, first, the house fire. Do you mind if I touch on that? What was that like? I imagine these prized possessions of these pen pals and these letters. How did that feel to lose some of those?
Interesting question. It was okay because I still had connection to them. So I hadn't thought about that ever before. So I still had the connection to them, and I do remember asking some to send me some new postcards so I could have still that physical. The biggest loss for me was I had a fender of a Speedway racing car driver, Walter Giles, and he'd signed it after an accident at the Speedway. I used to go love him. That was my biggest loss, was this piece of car. Sorry.
Wow.
So clearly there was, a misalignment at that age of what was important.
Yeah. And when you were writing these letters to these people from all over the world, what were you seeing in your mind's eye? Can you remember what you imagined like Italy to be like, or wherever the place was? Can you remember, or you didn't really know? Or
it was a connection. I would ask them about, so we'd write letters and send postcards, so I'd often get a letter instead. I wanted to know what they were doing at school, which was an interesting one. Well, what are you learning at school? And, in a way, it got me very curious about how different countries taught different histories. So that was a real eye-opener for me, that the world was different everywhere. It helped me imagine what life was like somewhere else, and that's where I align it to hope. Maybe life somewhere else is different than it is here, where I was in Australia, where we would have, my dad, I remember at one time on strike, he was a coal miner, and they were on strike for 4 months. And so there's no money coming into the house or into the community, and listening to political conversations and watching people be so courageous with their vision to make workplaces safer, with their visions to make the life for their children better by going without in the here and now. And so it was a great gift, yet also really challenging, because you have to watch the sacrifices that can come with a vision and the hope that came by living vicariously through others, and knowing one day I could actually experience all of that for myself.
Right. So would you say hope plays a big role in the visioning for some people? It's something that, I guess especially for people who are in a situation maybe which they really don't want to be in, is the visioning also can act as hope and something there?
Just feeling into, do all visions need hope? There's definitely an essence of hope, I think, in every vision. Hope to change something, hope to create something beneficial. So I think it's good. Yeah, good question. Thanks. I think hope is there. Yep. Hope is alive, isn't it?
Yeah. All right, a quick word from one of our sponsors and then we'll get right back to the show. Today's sponsor is... Oh, hey, it's me, Tom from Raw Lens. At Raw Lens, we create impactful video and stills content that captivates your community. If you're a business, organization, or individual with a message to share, then let's chat. Book your free Creative Spark session today at rawlensmedia.com. Let's bring your vision to life. Okay, back to me in the show.
Yeah.
Yep. And so you do this every day. This is what you work with, leaders and conscious business owners around visioning and creating the dream situation, whatever that might look like for them. What does that look like? What is the process? How do you guide them into visioning? It can be an abstract sort of word and idea for a lot of people, and especially business owners. I know I'm one of them. And especially before I met you, I just want to get the work done. I just want to get in there and get it done. I don't have time for this. I just want to go. So, what's the process and why do you think it's important to start with the vision?
My background is corporate Australia. I've other than backpacking the world for 7 years. After that, I did corporate Australia for nearly 20 years. And people focus so much on business plans and all the heady stuff, and it's going to look like this and we're going to do that. And as they're creating it, what I witnessed was fear was always there. So as I'm writing a business plan, what happens if it doesn't? And it's also to try and convince others that this will be the return on the investment. So business plans and some of those, they have an important role, don't get me wrong. However, what I witnessed was people miss great opportunities that were flooding into them because I was so rigid to this other written plan that is infused with fear more than with what I'm going to refer to as joy, love, hope, something not yet known or in form. Create it from here. It's always about the savings, or it's always about the millions, or it's always about this. Go out there and there's just this experience that is a potential. And it doesn't have all those constraints. And so when I meet leaders and business owners, the first thing they're coming to me with is, or what's not going right. It's great. We know what's going right and we can understand that and we can address the fears and the risks but if we start to breathe and meditate and connect into another part of ourselves that we have possibly forgotten, or if we're not regular meditators, probably never met, then we start to actually all of a sudden realise there is something else I can be bringing to life. And the minute people tap into the vision of why they do the job they do or why they do the work they do, and then expand beyond that to potentiality and create a vision, you watch them drop off the things that really aren't important, the things that drain them, or they get better at delegating, or they hire more. They no longer fear spending the money to hire a team. And I watch businesses expand and grow, the right people coming in and doing the right thing. And this person who's got the vision gets to keep returning to home, to what I call, north. And they always come in, anything shakes them off, they can come back here and they attract all the things they know they need and bring the vision to life. And I get to experience life through other people's great vision creations. And you watch people create a lifestyle aligned with a vision, benefits themselves, benefits their employees, just by getting out of the way of all the so-called rules that we have to have in business. And coming back to the corporate sector, the reason I mention that is most of the gains or the goals I kicked and what I was known for in change management, conflict resolution, that actually came out of my capacity to vision versus adhering to a set of rules. Mm. So closing down a strike in Sydney CBD, they'd been striking for months when I was brought in. What did I do that first night I was brought in? I sat down, I created a vision of how I wanted to experience that workplace in 3 months, and I drew it. And so every time I'd feel myself getting brought into the chaos of the union strikes, management, what they wanted to do to the employees who were striking, all of this, I would just sit back in my vision. 6 weeks after I started there, starting to create that vision, the union walked into the commission and said, "We have no more issues there, Commissioner." They'd been trying for 6 months to get to a resolution. What was the difference? Was I had a vision that I shared with the whole workplace. I told them, I want us to do this different. We didn't have the outcomes anyone wanted, but we had a shared vision. That's what a vision does. It gets everyone on board. Business plans don't get everyone on board. Visions do. That makes sense?
It did. And I love the fact, and people watching this when they maybe have first heard the conversation when we started this, and just the terms and visioning and these sort of things, they probably didn't pick up that you worked in corporate, Sydney for Australia Post for many years. And it's interesting that you were there. You were there in the boardrooms and in corporate Sydney talking about visioning.
Yeah.
So I imagine that there was some resistance from some players in that sort of environment. What was that like, and how do you get people on board?
Okay. I'm processing a couple of things in that. Firstly, my belief is that resistance cannot exist unless I'm also resistant. So resistance can only exist if I'm also pushing up against. Okay? So if somebody doesn't like the idea, but I don't push up against and I allow them to be present in it, not liking the idea, that's just where they are in it. There is no resistance. If they can exist their way in it or not, that's their power. And then they may start to hear what resonates with them or not from the vision. Okay? And that then may either bring them in or not bring them in. And, that's entirely up to them. So resistance for me only exists if I become a part of the resistance.
If you're butting heads on it and I want to win, I want to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sharing a vision, and from, say, a small business or a conscious business or a global business that is creating change for the greater good, we want people in the team who are on board with the vision, because the minute they're on board, they're going to bring things in, okay, that contribute to the vision happening. But they're also going to bring in potential obstacles, barriers, before they happen, because they're going to see through their own lens of how the vision can come to life, but they're also going to feel into their own, but that's impossibility. And if there's room for them to say that can't happen, and we can now have a conversation and hear why they believe it can't happen, we'll enrich the vision in some way. It may not change anything, but we will enrich it because there's no longer this unsettled bolt vibrating at the edge of the vehicle of the vision. Does that make?
Yeah, being heard.
Yeah.
You're not saying my way or the highway. You're opening up the conversation to someone else to hear their thoughts.
Sometimes I was saying my way or the highway. I have to own that. Sometimes it's like, if this really does not resonate with you at all, then how about we look for something that does resonate with you?
Yeah.
We need people who actually do want to experience this workplace as a higher frequency, higher potentiality for the greater good. Could you maybe be losing something out of this vision coming to life? Yes, you may, but what might you gain if you contribute?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you really want to be against it, that's okay. You don't have to be a part of it. Let's find something, because it doesn't mean they're wrong. It's just the same as an employee coming into a workplace. If we recruit to the vision and values of a business, we will have less turnover in our workplaces than if we recruit to save money, if we recruit to just get someone's skills and burn them out. So the vision, I've got to own, sometimes I can be my way or the highway.
Can work this way.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the process of how you go about it? Because I've experienced it myself. Mm-hmm. We've worked together for many years, and it is unique, I would say. I've never done anything like it. I think I've always dreamed. I've always had dreams and maybe written them down and mantras and things like that. But your process was a first for me in the way it was sort of done. Can we talk about that and how you go about it?
It's, of course we can. It's an interesting one because everything I do, I need to work with where the individual is at and their capacity. So for some people, it's a slower process into the visioning process than others. So some people who meditate frequently, as you have, I can actually take them into a process a little quicker than somebody who's never meditated. And meditating doesn't mean silencing the mind and being completely still for me. Meditation for me is, can I quieten enough so that the thoughts that are coming in are informing me of something that wants to come to life through me? It's very, very, very different. So I should be able to be still enough that those that aren't helpful just fall away, like sediments in a snow cone. You shake it and some will fall, but others stay alive. They sort of light up. And that's what meditation will help someone do. And then I am taking a person, into a state, I'm going to say, like a meditation. And I'm going to get them to meet what I refer to as their future self. So I want them to connect with something that doesn't have today's problems. So the first thing I'm going to do with anyone in business, I want to hear all their obstacles, all the reasons they haven't made it happen today, all the reasons they can't do it, all the reasons that they must have this much money right now to do it. And you hear them, they woo, 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 woo. And it's great, we need all that. And then we leave that behind. And then we go into this process and meet what I'm referring to as the future self, the self who is not bothered or burdened by the current self lifestyle. And it's a heart process. We connect in through the heart completely of the potential of what wants to come to life. And it's not from the here and now. As you know, it doesn't. You're saying things that you're not even aware you want to fully give form to, and it's recorded. And I know I do ask questions. What are you experiencing? Who's around you? What sort of environment are you in? How are you, how's your life going? So it is working with the wheel of life. Okay, so I'm wanting to understand family life. I'm wanting to understand work life, financial, mental health, physical health, things you do as hobbies. I'm bringing all of that in the visioning process. And we're actually now breathing life into a totality in some form of something that is there waiting to be experienced. And then we come back. I have it transcribed by AI, which is wonderful. And then we start to play with it in the coaching and get really clear. And at some point, the person just takes it over.
Can I just...
Yeah, you go.
This is all true, but I think for people listening, they might not fully understand the practicality of how it looks. So I'm just going to tell people what happened for me. So I went up to your beautiful house in Mullaney on the Sunshine Coast hinterland. I sat in a chair like this, and we had a recording device on the tape. Did a meditation, went into it, calmed, as you've described. You need to be in a place where the sediment falls and you're calm and relaxed. Then you asked me a series of questions of Tom in, I think it was 3 years. It was 3 years from where I was in that present time. And so you're talking to that person. And so I became that person. So I think that's a really important part of it, as you've described it. I was that person. I was Tom 3 years from that time. And you asked me all those different questions, and I hadn't, thought about it deeply enough, but it's just coming from somewhere when you're asking those questions. So something's coming out where you want to be and what you want to do. In the present though, in that moment, if that makes sense. You're 3 years, Tom in 3 years. And so, that was a process. I described it to you. You recorded it and then you pieced it all together so it was in a document. Sorry, just wanted to paint that picture of like how it physically looked and how that came together.
And I really appreciate it because it's very different as a person facilitating a process versus experiencing a process.
Yeah.
So I think it's really useful for people to hear what happens when someone's facilitating this for you.
Yeah.
And you're right, this is a key part that you bring in of visioning. I'm experiencing it as though it already is. And that's that part of time does not exist. I'm experiencing it as though it already is. Now, if it already is, and this is one of the keys I love about visioning, whether I be working for someone in a corporate sector as a leader, whether I be in my own life, whether it be something in my relationship, if in my vision it already is, that means at any point along the way it already has happened and therefore I can drop it off because it may no longer serve my life. So sometimes in a visioning we'll bring in aspects that want to come to life and then we'll be moving on, the visioning's happening, but this key part here no longer feels important or significant. And so if we say it's already been expressed, we don't try and hold on to things that aren't going to work. We let it go. And I probably learnt that best out of a TED talk from one of the key leaders in Apple, where they have a whole team to blow up people's visions. So a team in Apple might have a huge budget working on a creation of something, and there's this team that will actually work on why the vision actually might not work. And they bring in the parts and they'll say, well, that vision's great, but we need to kill that part of it off. And so rather than getting 3 years down the track and finding it actually wasn't good, they've had people getting rid of the parts that have already been expressed but don't actually need to be part of the final vision. And that's one of the joys I love. In a business plan, and then, maybe it was in the corporate structure I was in, it would be, well, why didn't you fulfill that part? And I say, because it was irrelevant. The outcome was for this. That's actually irrelevant. It's not going to bring any benefit to the organisation, so I've killed it off. And people would get upset, but I wrote it in for a reason. So visioning for me allows for a fast-track, expanded expression of a fully potential life.
And you've touched on something there which is really important. It often is a stripping back, isn't it? It's not putting things on, it's taking it away and pulling back and revealing what the essential things and just the thing that or the idea or the thing, the vision that you want without all the bits and pieces on top.
And I think we're taught that we need more, always need to add more versus flowing through. What do I really need? And if we look at certain sports, they don't add, say, the Sydney to Hobart. They're not adding things to slow the vessel down. They're actually streamlining it as much as they can. They're getting clearer and clearer what's in the way. And for a vision, it's important to make sure we're aware of the crew that we're bringing on board to streamline and bring it to life. And visioning for me is an everyday part of my life in some way, because I don't need to go forward always 3 years. I may need to just go to the end of the day. So if you were visiting and staying at our place and we were having breakfast together, you'd be invited to join me and my partner in our daily ritual, which is, what are your 3 things you're grateful for from yesterday? Okay, so what yesterday? And we really acknowledge that, what our gratitudes are. And what are 2 things that by the end of the day you want to have completed or accomplished that aligns with something that's important to you further forward. And then we do our meditation. And this helps us keep our dreams, aspirations, visions alive that are important to us individually. It keeps us connected with the gratitudes of where others may have supported us the day before and in life. Okay, and so visioning for me can be, by the end of the day, I want to have experienced that this list is all complete. I have a whiteboard in my room I write everything on. I want to complete all of that list by the end of today, and that's a commitment, and I've seen it empty, done. So visioning can be short or it can be further forward. I'm going to say what I've witnessed as the world has changed. Years ago, I could do visioning processes with people 5 years, 10 years out quite confidently and then stay true to it. The world changes so quick now that I find 3 years for big projects is the longest.
All right, a quick word from one of our sponsors and then we'll get right back to the show. Today's sponsor is... it's me, Tom from Raw Lens. At Raw Lens, we create impactful video and stills content that captivates your community. If you're a business, organisation or individual with a message to share, then let's chat. Book your free Creative Spark session today at rawlensmedia.com. Let's bring your vision to life. Okay, back to me in the show. What would you say are the qualities of a great visionary?
I'm going to say Tom. You have many of those qualities.
I'm sure about that.
Yeah, I have the pleasure of coaching. You go.
That's very nice of you, and I think I've learnt through you. But like, and I'll just speak what comes up for me when you say that is self-doubt, and I'm sure a lot of people out there feel the same thing. How do we get that out of our way? How do we get self-doubt? Because we, at the moment, I'm visioning a larger studio space, and just a bigger arena that comes with money and different things and different challenges. And there's a part of me that always goes, I don't know if I could do that. How do I get that voice out of my head?
Okay. So if I invite you to just really still yourself and be with me fully in the new podcasting studio in late 2026. Completed, done. We're sitting there. It's everything you imagined, everything you have looked at that's inspired you to want to bring this to life. Can you feel us doing that?
Yep.
Just sitting there.
Yep.
Are you worried from that person about how it's going to happen? Or are you just experiencing it with me? We're in that studio. Fully in that studio. It already is. And there's a stillness within, isn't there? I'm going to call it trust. Others might call it something else. I call it trust. I don't know how, but I know that I am bringing this to life. And I give it a commitment to give it life. So how do we overcome it? Did you hear? I wasn't inviting you to overcome your self-doubt. I'm inviting you to give a commitment to an aspect of you that wants to bring something to life. And so the fear, Tom, of the here and now is more about wanting to honour a commitment. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah.
So the vision is its own entity. It's giving you a responsibility in a way to birth it. And you're saying yes or no.
Yeah.
Yes, I will bring this to life. We need to mark this in a calendar and come back at end of 2026.
Oh, it's on camera now, so no pressure, Tom.
No pressure, Tom. What was that like for you to experience?
Yeah, I think it's daunting to it's daunting to believe in yourself, if that makes sense. It's daunting to say I can do this. But I think if you sit with it, you go, no, I can. I can do this, yeah.
I can attempt to convince you and override your belief about self, which won't be helpful. That's that resistance thing again, isn't it? I try, you say I feel this and I say, oh, no, you don't need to feel that. Our thoughts can influence our feelings. However, our feelings need to be expressed fully for us to be able to be with them, for them to shift, because an emotion is energy in motion. If I try and block it and say, no, just don't think that, of course you can do it, I've actually blocked it, so it's going to have to build up and get stronger at some point. Whereas if I say, okay, that's what you believe, but how about we go forward and experience it as completed, that feeling can still exist in its entirety. I doubt myself to do this. I don't believe I can do it. Now, I want to digress a little. And this is probably something I've had to acknowledge over the time of coaching people. People who are very, very in their head, like fully in their head, and very much externalize the world out there. So I need feedback from everybody else in my life. Find getting into the visioning rhythm a little more arduous than people who have a sense of self that's a bit more solid. Okay, so if I have a great idea and I share it with you and you go, oh, yeah, that's good, Yvette. Your face has said one thing, okay, and your voice has said something else. And now there's an incongruence in between what you said and what your face fed back to me. Now, the incongruence in you, because we like to mirror as humans, I will take that incongruence into me. And now I've planted the incongruence of you into my seed. And so I've got a seed of hope and vision with a seed of doubt. So I'm not actually now planting my vision into the right soil.
Are you saying for people who are too much in your head, that is what they may feel?
And others may feel this too, but people in their head will slow it down and amplify it more.
People who are wanting external validation more will be more affected.
Yeah, they're going to really need something externally. And so in that case, it's about becoming very self-aware. What type of person am I? So if I believe I've got a great idea, a great vision, it's going to require a certain amount of capital to do it, fulfill it, and I base everything based on external feedback, it's going to be a far more challenging process than if I go, I know that this is in me for a reason and I trust I can attract the right people, have the right conversations to help me bring this to life. The time frame may not be the time frame I want. It may be slower, it may be faster, but I have to come back in here and trust me. And so if you pull that face of, oh yeah, that sounds really good, Yvette, I have to trust myself to go, what about it didn't feel really good, Tom? I watched your face. I have to trust myself to get more feedback so I can keep that seed alive. But if I'm really external and I'm too afraid to displease you, you might be dad, you might be mum, and, I don't want to displease you, have the capacity to go away and either I don't write journal because it keeps me here. I vocal journal and then transcribe. So I would come away if I was a very heady person or what I'd call externally oriented person, and I would say into my journal, I feel really despondent about my vision today. I feel really quite upset and hurt. I told it to Tom. I thought he'd be on board and he pulled a face at me, and I'm now doubting myself. And then if I was coaching this person, they would have a series of questions around the minute they say I'm doubting myself, is there an attribute of self I can tap into to help me get back on board, or is there someone I can have a conversation with to help me get back on board? So what do I need to do just to work with the self-doubt, not with the vision? Does that?
Yeah. I think there's such a huge sliding scale of different people in that space of what straight away I started to think about people I know who operate off external validation 100%, almost to what sort of cup of tea should I have? They can't make that decision. They need someone else to do it for them. And so, I think there's a huge range there and then there's people who almost become energized by people who say you can't do that. And I think sometimes I fit into that when someone says, no, you can't do that. Oh, how dare you?
Let me prove you wrong.
Say that? Yeah, let me prove you wrong. So, there's just different ranges, isn't there, of different people and doubt and all of those and how they react to it.
What a great self-awareness. So if I want to bring something to life, I need to talk to the person I know who will disapprove because that's going to fire me up.
Yeah.
It's great self-awareness. It's not right or wrong. And I think this is, as a species, what we often do. Make everything right or wrong versus really getting to know who we are ourselves and be really self-aware and go, just because that works for me doesn't make it wrong. It means it works for me. And I'm going to tap into that in some way. Some might call it defiance. No, it can't. And so if the defiance to flow against most can work for us, use it. Would we want to do it all the time? No, it would probably burn out. However, be aware. That can fire me up. That's really good. It can get me clearer. That's really good. It can give me some charge. Versus for another person, it would actually completely snuff out the flame of vision. Yeah. And that's, I think, the hardest part, that people allow someone else to snuff out their flame of vision And then they go into resentment, regret, remorse, and that's where we'll see people move into life apathetically. And I know this personally. When I was leaving the corporate sector, I was apathetic about life. I was so burnt out, so fatigued. Every time I'd complete a vision, they would move me to the next most challenging, dysfunctional section of the organisation to go in and create some new visions for. And I said to them, I need you to give me a break. I'm tired. I need to stop. And they didn't. And so I went, I need to leave this. And I love the organisation I work for. The work I did was because I truly behaved as though I was invested in it personally in some way, benefiting other than a paycheck. In hindsight, I see for them I was a paid employee who was very good at a certain set of skills, and they made the most use of me. And I ended up leaving, and I was like, well, now what? Because my vision was tied with where I was going in my corporate career. Now I'm without an income, don't know what I want to do. My health is suffering. Probably thought death would be easier, so suicide ideation was there. And I go, well, what do I do? And the only thing I had was meditation. It was the only thing keeping me going every day, my meditations. And, you know, maybe it was an escapism. But it was in one of those I actually asked myself, what does my soul want to experience? What does my soul want to experience? And what was amazing was what I don't actually, some people are privileged with seeing these amazing things. I feel it. And I could feel the work that was coming, that I was going to do and what needed to happen. And I came out of that. And again, I drew it and spoke it and recorded it. And then I went, well, how do I now make that happen? So probably 3 to 6, no, not 6, it's 3 to 4 months after leaving corporates that I'm going to say I felt low energy, depressed, unhealthy, unwell, resentful, tired, no income coming in. How am I going to do this? Net worth on paper, worth a lot of millions, and yet you've still then got debt. Okay, so what am I going to do? No desire to repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse. Needed to change something. And so it was this vision in my conversation with my partner every morning. So this is the vision. This is what I want to bring to life. I need to action the next step. And I started to go and meet with people who might be able to help me. I worked with a therapist to work through some of the low frequency energies, as I call them. And I also worked with a coach. Help me bring my visions to life, because right now I'm on a seesaw, one day here, one day. So one day up, everything's possible, the next day down. And it was tiring. And then I went, okay, I'm not sure what it is. So I studied coaching and psychotherapy through 2 different bodies at the same time to really help me align with where I wanted to go. And again, it was the visioning that gave me hope, brought me to life.
Wow. And the common thread in all of this, before any change happens, I think, is what I'm hearing over and over, is being still. Starting with being still and calming yourself down, getting settled, and then seeing, you know, asking questions as you did, what do I want to experience? What does my soul want to experience?
Yeah.
And only then can it start to happen. That's amazing, Yvette. Thanks for sharing. Can you talk to a client experience that that you've helped sort of get into that space of stillness before bringing their vision to life?
This is when we're thinking of visioning in what I'm going to refer to as potentially life-changing, there's often something that isn't working, okay, in someone's life. And so a client that comes to mind is where we really articulate that great visionaries encapsulate their whole life, their whole wheel of life. Great visionaries, you know, it is a benefit mindset. It's not just a growth mindset. It's beyond growth. And she was now just freshly divorced, certain income, previously had been able to afford nannies and everything else, but that wasn't going to be a part of the new lifestyle. Loved the type of work she was in, but needed to find something where the week she had her children, she could be primarily a mum and then still be fully engaged in her brilliance as a leader. But who was going to do that? And so we really worked with all the stories that says that doesn't exist in this world. There's no employer out there that would do this. We worked with all the limiting beliefs. We worked with all the inner fears. And then we did the process and went out, and we didn't want to go too far out. So we only went out 6 months and experienced the 6-month self in the here and now, already working for this employer, asking for, 0.8 of an FTE, really clear, really succinct, this much money, really clear, really on target, access to develop other leaders and build up something that's important to me, really clear. However, I'm a mum. Every second week I have my children. They're my primary in my life. They're my fundamental. That's what's most important. Job's important, but that's what's most important. And so of the 0.8 FTE, I want to only do 1 day a week, limited hours, will work from home, checking in on things when I have my children, and then full-time in the office, developing and working with the whole team on the week I don't have them. And, watching jobs, and wanted it to be meaningful work. Okay? So came back out of the visioning process, did the transcription, came into the next session. She was enlivened with, wouldn't this be wonderful if this existed somewhere in the world? And, okay, what are the next steps? What's the action? And the action is to keep watching opportunities out there. And only if that employer's values resonated with her would she then apply for roles. And she applied for different ones. And then there was this opportunity and she went, that is the dream job. That's it. And so she went for the interview, and I remember the session, we lined it up that morning, literally just before the interview, and it was, well, here's the transcript. Let's go through it. This is what you're asking for. This is what you want. This is what you experienced that day. So that means it happens. Went for the interview, really clear, brought in all of her brilliance of what she brings to the organisation and why she was asking for this in return and how it could work. Within 3 days, they offered her a job at the exact rate she asked for, on the exact term she wanted. And when they said the reason they were offering it was they felt her genuineness, they knew what her boundaries were, they loved and admired her clarity, and they knew she would be an absolute pivotal addition to the organisation's vision for what they wanted. So they realised that her capacity to vision for herself was an integral part of bringing that into the organisation and developing others. And 4 years on, she's still there, going up and developing more and more and more First Nations female leaders.
Amazing. I love that. And I've seen, I've obviously worked with you, and I've seen all the other businesses you work with, and you can see all of their visions and ideas and dream situations coming to life. I remember the reason why I met you and wanted to work with you is that a friend of mine, Andy, who's an electrician just down the road, just over a short period of time was growing his business massively. An electrician business. All of a sudden I'd see one van on the road, then I'd see 2 vans on the road, and then, his business was clearly growing and doing well. I said, Andy, who's your coach? What's going on here? And he introduced me to you, and the rest is history. So you're bringing, visions to life. That's just one example you've said there, but I want to acknowledge that it's not just a one-off. It's not just, it happens and quite often. And my 3-year visioning process with you, I'd like to say for the players at home, it came to life. It came to be true. So yeah, in my experience, it's a process that works. And I know for a lot of people, it's hard to understand and really grab a hold of, but it works and it's true and it's an amazing process.
Thank you. And it does work, and it works better if we bring, again, I keep wanting to make this point, it's through the heart of wanting to benefit not only our own life but the lives of others. So in your situation, we often bring in the business, but also your employees, their families, your family. It's this whole ecosystem, which, my business name, Habitat for Success, is creating a habitat, an ecosystem, an environment where we can flourish and thrive in all areas of our life. Because that means then we can support others to flourish off of our ecosystem. And I know you do that extremely well. And it's why I believe the visions for those I've coached work, is because they're topped up in their significant other relationships and their hobbies and their interests in positive ways, that the vision for their business actually feeds it to come to life. It's like a healthy kombucha energy coming in an effervescent way.
What's your vision in action, and how do you hope that this is a big question. How do you hope that aligns with, the world and changes the world? Is that too big of a question, or do you believe that, a vision from an individual can ripple out and, create a positive impact in the world?
It's a great question. And as you asked it, there are a couple of things. There's the belief that, yes, I definitely believe any one individual can create significant, lasting, beneficial, positive influence and change in the world. I really do believe one person can do that, and beyond their life. So if we look at Gandhi, if we look at Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, and there's so many others out there, that what they do creates such a ripple effect, and it's massive. And if we have a look at those I even mentioned, their visions created change, but it doesn't mean everyone was on board with their vision. So, it's why we will see that not everyone agreeing with a vision, but definitely can ripple out. Do I believe that the work I do has a ripple effect? Definitely. I see it change, life, and people take it and use it with others. And so it's definitely rippling out. Do I believe it's me? No, I don't. I believe it's a frequency that now is enlivened and people are starting to use more and more. And it's not through a lens of manifesting something out there that I need to bring in here. It's trusting that something can come through me, really need to acknowledge, for me to express out to benefit others. So it's through me, for me, and from me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I think, it speaks to a pretty deep subject of being connected, and maybe that's another conversation for another day. We'll go down a rabbit hole there.
The oneness.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to touch on today on this theme and subject?
I believe everybody has the capacity to tap into the core heart, the soul wisdom, whatever we want to call it, intuition, to something, a nudging, a knowing that something in their life is out of alignment. And if they sit, and they don't need to meditate, if they sit still, quiet, and they start to just tune in, they don't ask questions, they just sit with something, that will just breathe something into them in their heart. And if they trust their heart to guide them to something brighter and wiser, they will make one shift in their life that will enrich their life And then they'll trust this a bit more, and they'll enrich their life a bit more, and they'll trust this a bit more. So they might say no to an event they don't really want to go to, and they find in the time they're not there, they actually sit down and create something that just makes their life better. I meditate every morning without fail, 20 minutes. Most days, 20 minutes twice a day. That's my ideal. Sometimes, don't know what my excuse is. I don't always get to that end of day, but every morning. That is pretty much when I find myself clean. So through the heart is key. If you have ideas come into your head, write them down. Make sure you capture them, record them, and notice in the quiet moments, if it then comes through here, that, oh, gosh, I'd love to do that. Rather than go, gosh, I'd love to do that, but I can't, it's impossible. Go, gosh, I'd love to do that. I wonder when it is I bring it to life. Trust.
I love that. Thank you so much, Yvette, for this conversation and shedding a light on the world of visioning and bringing it to life. It's happened for me, it's happening to me, and you're doing it for many others out there. So, if you're watching and listening, then please, where can people find out more about you?
Okay, so
do you want them to? You're a very in-demand person. You probably don't want the whole world.
Okay, so if people are passionate about bringing a vision to life and need some coaching, they can have a look at H, the letter H for Habitat, the number 4, the letter S for Success, habitatforsuccess.com.au, and have a little look and see if it aligns and resonates with them, and then set up a time and check that I am the best person for them to work with, and if they're ready for the visioning. Sometimes it's conscious business or conscious leader work initially before they get into that. They may need to really get their esteem levels up to really benefit from the visioning process. So have a little look at that and see. And I am going to be launching some groups to get touch more people sooner, and some workshops. And so watch this space. So thank you, Tom. Always love having conversation with you.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching the show. This podcast is truly a passion project for me and the small but awesome team behind the scenes. We pour our hearts into bringing you these honest and insightful conversations, but I can't tell you how much it helps when you hit that follow or subscribe button. The show gets bigger, which means we can expand the production and we can continue to bring in amazing guests from all walks of life. Please help us to do this thing that we love and hit that follow or subscribe button. We appreciate you being here. Thank you.